Good morning again, everyone. Saturday, February 28th, 2026. Good old 710 KNUS, Denver's talk station. I'm Peter Boyles. Phone number is 303-696-1971. For about 3 or 4 minutes this morning, I took over for John Caldera. We had wide open lines, and it's been jammed up ever since. I'm sure most of you by now know that U.S. and Israel have attacked Iran. Donald Trump confirming major combat operations. The U.S. and Israel have announced major military operations against Iran on Saturday morning, when President Trump again threatened the regime now for weeks and now has made it good, along with the Israelis. There has been a lot of video up. President Trump has called for the Iranian military to lay down their weapons and for civilians to rise up and take over your government. 710 KNUS Weather Center weather, 70 will be the high, 65 on Sunday and Monday, 67. We have two lines open. We're a holdover. This is David. All right, David, it's yours again. Go ahead.
Oh, thanks, Peter. Yeah, he's setting it up so that the former Shah's put back into power, or his son. So he's trying to build a country to get rid of the theocracy, government by religion. He's going to replace it by government by king. And if you know, back in 1953, the United States took over Iran also. And when he put the Shah in power back then, that was Eisenhower, they put the Shah back in, and so the people couldn't negotiate for business. The king demanded the ability to negotiate for business. So Trump claims to be a businessman, and he wants business around the world, but he sets up a one-stop shop.
Well, the history of Iran, United States, is really significant to know and read, leading up until what's happened this morning or in the world. But until World War II, and I just finished a book that I just thought was the best. It's entitled King of Kings, about the life of the Shah. And until World War II, relationships between the United States and Iran were cordial. And as a result, Iranians, there was something called the Persian Constitutional Revolution, and the people who wanted to bring that in saw the United States in a very, very, very positive light. Reza Khan, the Shah's father, he was a Cossack, and he was very, very brave man, very, very strong man, and he came to power after leading a British-backed coup in the first part of the 20s that overthrew a dynasty that was locked in Persia. Then he declares himself the Shah, and he took the name Reza Pahlavi, and he launches the modernization efforts that began. And during the World War II, the German influence over Reza Shah forced this coup to take place, and that was generated by Stalin and Roosevelt and Winston Churchill. And he had his son, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, the Shah that you and I saw run and die of cancer. But the big three, then what's really significant here is something called the Tehran Declaration, that I wasn't even aware of until I read this really remarkable book. So in post-war Iran, the 1949, it was called the Constituent Assembly of Iran. They gave the Shah the power to dissolve his own parliament and become an absolute monarch. And then, of course, until the outbreak of the war, the United States had no active policy towards Iran. When the Cold War began, the United States was alarmed by the Soviet Union, Kurdistan, as well as demands for military rights. And so along comes Mossadegh. He wins the election. They push the Shah out in Anglo-Iranian oil, MI6, the CIA. They overthrow Mossadegh, and they bring back the Shah. And that's when they clamp down. And the Iranians know this stuff. It isn't like they're not looking at their own history. They look at their own history, and of course, when Jimmy Carter's president, Jimmy Carter, who went around emphasizing human rights, but he really went pretty easy with the Shah. But Iran was had gathered to itself unfavorable publicity, and the Shah responds to Carter's it was called the polite reminder. And in 1977, opposition formed, denouncing the Shah, and it starts there. And now we have these people in power. I don't know what you do with all of this. David, I don't. I mean, I read it and I try to understand it, and now what?
Well, the way I'm glad you laid it out that way, because as I was mentioning, when you've got a one-stop shop like a king, there's no market forces. What the king says happens, and what tries to happen, and usually if it's a bad idea, then everything gets fouled up. And when you start looking at the resources of ancient Persia, modern Iran, the idea that these guys are going to, there are plenty of business.
But the Middle East is replete with these people. Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Bahrain, they all have monarchs and royal families. The UAE, it isn't like the Shah was the only guy. The interesting thing is the Shah's not an Arab, or wasn't an Arab, and he wasn't a Sunni, and he wasn't and he saw himself differently, maybe to his own demise.
Well, to make it easier for listeners, there's an old PBS a 4-part series called Oil. It came out probably years ago. Yeah. And in it describes how the world in like 100 years ago, the world was carved up by Shell and Standard Oil.
Yes.
And it was the Rockefellers versus Royal Dutch Shell. And Rockefeller had about 90% of the oil rights in the world, 90% in the world. And Shell had a whole bunch of other. And so Rockefeller decided to squeeze out Shell, and so they Shell had a whole bunch of Middle East holdings, and they had what would be
the Middle East. The Middle East wasn't important to American oil supplied most of the oil for the First World War, not the Middle East. The Middle East only becomes important after the Second World War. The British had been there prior to the First World War. That's British Petroleum. But American oil companies, and that's what makes people like John Paul Getty, if you read Getty's life, Getty really hits the home run in the Middle East. And by the way, never so much as sets a foot in the Middle East, but Getty Oil. I mean, when the rise of the multinational corporations, and were never in anyone's favor. I personally believe that the American CIA, and to a degree the American military, went with the multinational corporations abroad to protect them, to do their bidding.
Right.
So
that whole concept that they ruin the lives of the world just so they can corner the market. And this oil series describes basically how the Middle East, they had to have kings back there because the ability to have mineral rights in the Middle East is subverted by having a king that says, I own everything, and I can make the decision.
That's why Nasser is so important, is that when Nasser comes up, and they are what's called Baathists, Baath, Baathists, and Baathists are
That's party, yeah, right.
they're a socialist party, and they call it the Arab man on the street, and so they would say, and in fact, if you read some of the more radical Islamists, they talk about the oil belongs to all of us. It just doesn't believe they call these people the parasite princes, and that's who they aim at, the Saads and the Kuwaitis and others. And Osama wrote extensively about the parasite princes, and that they 1/10 of 1% of 1/10 of 1% owns 99% of all of it. And they said this is so wrong, and this is what gave power to Nasser. The fact that he also took the canal back from the British, but he becomes this figure. Saddam is a Baathist, although you wouldn't know it, but he is, and they proclaim themselves to be these things. On the other side of the fence, or the other side of the wall, are the royal families, and the royal families are, less than 10 families that run the rest of the show. And the Shah was part of that, although he wasn't an Arab and he wasn't a Sunni. So he was kind of on the outside. And he was also, he was pro-Israel. And that's a huge no-no in that world as well. So, and he was an arrogant fill in the blank. I mean, he wasn't very smart, but he was the Shah. And the point you made, I think, was legit. Like, it's good to be the king. It's good to be the Shah. He was the absolute. He was the Shah and Shah. He was the absolute monarch, and he looked the other way so many times. He's kind of like a Nicky Romanoff. Keeps looking the other way, like this. None of this is real. None of it's true. Well, one day it's real and it's true. So
right. Well, yeah. Just to follow up, these guys, if the Middle East is the Holy Land, then God owns everything, and the oil companies don't get anything.
Yeah.
And it's funny, the takeover, 30, 40 years ago in Iran with the Shah, or not the Shah, the Ayatollah. If that guy was reflecting God's will, then the oil belonged to God, but he still gave it over to the oil companies.
Well, Mossadegh did the same thing. When they nationalized the oil, under the Shah, I mean, they were what today we would call environmental crimes, and plus they were virtually stealing the Iranian oil. And I say it was British Petroleum, and all those guys just worked around. There used to be 7 sisters, and now there's 5. But they did what they did, and they did what they wanted to do, and they did business with whomever they wanted to do business with. And it didn't bother anybody. And only when the time comes when people say, no, we're not going to do business with you like you were doing with us, then they become a problem. But prior to that, there are no problems.
Hey, well, last thing before I go. I don't know if you noticed it, but Donald Trump cut off all Medicaid to the state of Minnesota the other day. All of it. Nobody, top to bottom, east to west, could get Medicaid in the state of Minnesota the other day because Donald Trump is such a petulant little bastard.
He gets even.
And so the idea that wasn't bad enough. That was like 2 days ago. And 1 day ago, he then cuts off all supplies to the handicapped nationwide for 6 months. No diapers, no catheters, no, artificial limbs, wheelchairs, all of it. So Dr. Oz comes on, gives a press conference day before yesterday, and cuts off everything. No gauze, no oxygen tanks, no urinary catheters, no breast prosthesis for post-mastectomy patients. And that happened just the other day. what are you going to do with a dirty Band-Aid or bandage? Somebody that's in medical distress and they got dirty bandages. They got to be changed every day.
They fight New York. If you look at
Right.
whether you can dislike or love Donald Trump, but what he's got that New York street thing in him that.
Right, just viciousness. Right, I got to get it. Screw you.
And that's how they were raised. So
yeah, exactly. So this is not funny, and it's
No.
Anybody that's handicapped, anybody that's on Medicaid, anybody that's got a surgery coming up, you're in deep crap now. This got to stop, and so he's doing a distraction from Epstein, and he's basically hurting the. If you remember, Adolf Hitler rounded up Jews, of course, but he rounded up the homeless first.
no,
Then he rounded
he
up
rounded up union leaders and newspaper editors went first.
But he rounded up the handicapped, and he rounded up the seniors, and they had to work off their debt to society.
I don't think it was seniors. It was.
Yeah,
They went down a list of people, but they started with editors and union leaders way before. There was a term called the undermunchen, the underman, animal people, and there was a jacket of, homosexuals and gypsies and Jews and go down a list of things. But for occupations, it was union leaders and newspaper editors. So,
well, the line that they used was the useless bread eaters.
Well, that's Mao came up with the useless mouth. That was they only ate, they never did anything for it.
It was in Germany too, the useless bread eaters.
I'll take your word.
The German expression for it, but they rounded up people based on you had a pension. Well, they knew you were not working for keeping the fatherland going. We got to put you in this camp so you can work off your debt. But the camp was like a company town. They had company script, and you were never going to make enough per day to pay for your own food and rent.
I've been in the first camp that was open was Dachau, and they was I know who. I mean, when you read who went in, it was homosexuals, it was union leaders, it was newspaper editors. I've never we'll end the conversation, but I've not heard the other. Thank you for the call. 303-696-1971. Good morning. So, how does this end? The U.S. and Israel have struck Iran. There'll be ongoing strikes. Again, just reading from the internet for several weeks. The military operation against Iran started early this morning. What do you do with it? 303-696-1971. How does it end? David Smith is going to join us. He's a historian from Baylor, and I love him. He's great. And he was going to talk about his first book when I met him, a book on the life and times of Audie Murphy. We'll talk about this, about Iran and the United States. So let me do a turnaround. Lines are wide open, 303. If you were trying to get on the show a moment ago and you couldn't get on because of busy, pick up the phone, 303-696-1971. What is your fear of the world and what is the success of the world? And it is your turn. Stay here.
Your KNUS forecast for the Denver metro area calls for this final day of February to be mild, well above average temperatures by about 20 degrees, not record warmth, but we will see highs approaching 70 degrees. Increasing clouds just near 40 tonight. Average high and low this time of the year should be near 50 in the low 20s. Kicking off March with mild conditions, but increasing precipitation chances, high 60s, lows mid to upper 30s. I'm meteorologist Mark Huer in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
1971. It's a Saturday. Good morning. 70 will be the high, 65 on Sunday, and 67 on Monday. David Smith, Professor Smith, is coming up at the top of the 10 o'clock. Here's what I can't stand, the dental runaround. And I've been through this, and you've been through it. You go for a checkup, and they send you across town for an extraction, and then somewhere else for Invisalign. And at the time, you waste your time, and you pay too much, and you want it done right. You want it done the first place and first time. And my guys, my friends, Twin Aspen Dental Center. I've been friends with Dr. Richter for a really long time. I think he's going to do the show with us one day in the next month or so. I think he's going to stop by and be part of the show. Dr. Snyder and Dr. Rich, they built something special in Parker. And this comprehensive family care, everything from your regular cleanings to the big stuff, same-day crowns and dental implants and smile makeovers. And they even handle same-day emergencies if you're in pain, you had an accident, and they don't tell you to wait 2 weeks. They tell you, can you get right in? And they professionally and promptly fix it. And if you don't have insurance, don't let that stop you. They have reduced fee membership plans that make quality care affordable. Again, get the smile you want without the headache. Go to twinaspendentalcenter.com. It's twinaspendentalcenter.com. These are my friends. These guys really do the job. Give them a call at 303-841-7466, 303-841-7466. Don't wait. Get it handled today. Twin Aspen Dental Center, 303-841-7466. We go to Ron in Colorado Springs. Ron, you're on the radio show. Good morning. Thank you.
Hi, Pete.
Hey, brother.
I don't think Trump had any choice at this point in time. They're never going to be weaker. That Strait of Hormuz, 20% of the oil in the world flows through that, and if they control that, which they've been interfering with, so to speak, but if they had some tactical nukes, they could absolutely control the Strait of Hormuz. And unlike Iraq, which we all know was based on lies by Bush, Cheney, and the military establishment, I don't think we have that false basis for going in to Iran like we did Iraq. And I'm afraid if those people don't rise up like Trump has encouraged them, we may not get rid of the mullahs.
Do you remember when Herbert Walker Bush urged the Kurdish people to rise, and they did?
Yeah.
And he did nothing, and Saddam brutally murdered them. A lot of the people in the Middle East don't trust us, and I'm sure you're not shocked.
Right.
They don't trust American foreign policy. But what is the?
Yeah, but
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say the one good thing, as bad as Saddam was, he wasn't a religious nut, and he made decisions based upon pragmatic reasons.
Well, Saddam probably was good for killing. No one will really ever know how many religious fanatics, but people thought he was good for 50, 60,000 jihadis.
Wow!
And then when George Bush and Dick Cheney blamed him for that, they were shocked. Wait a minute.
What?
But nevertheless.
Well, there's another caveat. When Bush urged them to rise up, it occurred to me maybe the only ones that would have risen up, they've shot 39,000 people.
No, this
who
was
were in on.
This was before. This was after the first Gulf War. And
right. I understand that, but
yeah.
I'm talking about in Iran, and they've already killed 39,000 people approximately. So
it's interesting when you look at certain segments or certain parts of the world, the price of life, the life price, and you can say it one of two ways. You can say it's really expensive to stay alive, or it's very cheap to die. But they do see it that way. So what is the end game? How does this end?
Well, I think it's to get some sort of a quasi-democratic government in there. It may look different than us, but somebody who wants to engage in the international, trade. And you look at pictures back in the 50s of Iran, of women, how they dressed, and I mean, it was pretty sophisticated country and culture.
No, the Shah is an interesting character, and I mentioned to you this book, King of Kings, that I would urge people to read. It's lengthy, but it's the life of the Shah, and who he was, and his own arrogance, and how he saw things. But he went along with some Western ideologies because he wanted this relationship between the United States and Arab American Oil, Aramco, and himself. He profited incredibly from it, and he's an enigma. He's a difficult guy for me to try to understand, but he now does what? That's the $64,000 question. Real quick, the supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, has been eliminated. That just comes in from a senior Israeli official. Let's see if it holds up.
Well, that's good. We need a little good news today.
Well,
I think Iran might have shot themselves in the foot because they started lobbing missiles over to countries that wanted to stay neutral, Lebanon, and now they may, Lebanon and Beirut, they may align themselves with the U.S. now, whereas they wanted to kind of stay separate before.
The Lebanon has not been neutral since the invasion took place, and they have struggled for their own independence, but oftentimes not allowed to have it. Internally, I've been in Lebanon, and Lebanon's a beautiful place, wonderful people, but it's turned inside out. It's really, hey, very, very good call. Well thought out. It was Ron thought out. Thank you very much for your time. You're welcome. You're more than welcome. Let's go to Marcus in Aurora. Marcus, you're on the radio show. Good morning. Thank you.
You have a really interesting radio show this morning. I was thinking about that song way back in 1980 by Vance and The Violent.
Oh.
They sung about Bomb Iran by the Beach Boys.
Yeah.
Remember that? Barbara Ann? Yeah.
Of course I do. Played it in a bar. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe some of these people would like to hear it. Maybe you'd throw it in there.
I don't know if we can play that on the air or not. That's Bomb Iran. I don't know. I'm an old guy in the end of the trail here. I'm going to push that one. But I do know the song. Yeah, quite well.
Yeah. And my hero was always Audrey Murphy. And out of all the actors and everything, and he was for a real guy. And when he was in the military, he was a pacifist. People don't know this. And it's just amazing how people have changed in the middle of a war.
Here was our plan coming down for today's show, and it all got shifted. David Smith is still coming on, but he's not going to talk about Audie. He's going to talk about Iran and the United States. But that's when I first met him. He wrote a biography of Audie Murphy, and I would urge you to read it, and you get a whole different perspective of who Audie Murphy was. He was haunted. He was what the term that we use as PTSD. He slept with a gun. There was all kinds of my verification story is that there were stories about when he went to Hollywood, and he was a handsome little guy, and women liked him.
Yeah.
He liked women, but then he really liked this one woman, and I don't know if he was dating her, I forget, but he got moved in on by Tony Curtis, and Tony Curtis picked up Audie's girlfriend, so Tony Curtis tells me the story. This is name dropping, but David Smith writes about it. But so Tony Curtis is looking. He beat guys up, pulled guns on guys. I mean, he really did. And so Tony Curtis is on the lot, and I think it's at Paramount, but don't hold me to that. And he sees Audie Murphy, and he goes and he hides in a dumpster. And it's in the book. And so Tony Curtis is in Denver, and he's in Some Like It Hot, and he's playing the old guy. The old guy's role in Some Like It Hot. And so he did the radio show with me, and I asked him off the air. I said, I got to ask you two things, and he said, shoot. He was great. It was like my idol, and I'm talking to him. And I said,
Yeah.
Did you hide in the dumpster from Audie Murphy? And he said, I did. I said, and I asked him what everybody wanted to know about him and Marilyn Monroe, and he said yes. So that was my questions. But
I'm going to read that book, Peter. I'm really going to check that out because I loved Audie Murphy.
Oh, he was.
I mean,
he didn't know his father showed up later in his life. He didn't want to talk to him. He was.
oh wow.
He had tons of trouble, but he certainly was he was brave, but
Yeah,
I'll get.
He made good movies.
He played cowboys. He always played cowboys.
Yeah, a great cowboy.
And it was, I think it was James Cagney took him to Hollywood, and I mean there's all a bunch of stories about when he had a real short temper, and he was PTSD'd, and I'll have David talk a little bit about it when he's on the show. Thank you very much. Thanks, man. I'll do that.
Take care.
All right, bye. We good for a break? We're gonna what 5 minutes? Okay. Let's go here. We go to Stephen in Denver. Stephen, you're on the radio show. Good morning. Thank you.
Good morning, Peter. It
Hey.
was a pleasure to meet you last week.
Oh,
I enjoyed
yeah.
talking to you.
Oh yeah, we did. We sat down for lunch. Me and you and the Sheik.
Yeah.
And then Sheik. Listen to me. Me and you and
The
Billy.
Sheik.
To Billy. I said the Sheik. And Billy. Go ahead.
This is wrong as rain. I think it's a terrible decision. I think we don't have any pressing interest over there, and we certainly don't have any imminent interest over there. And we're not learning from history. This is totally contra to Trump's whole mission, his mantra statement, foreign wars. And I think this war is going to be deeply unpopular in the United States.
Well, I'm getting a note from a very, very well-placed friend of mine who he sends me this. He said, what I'm hearing from friends, the American bases were attacked today. In Bahrain, the command center, the U.S. Fifth Fleet, in Qatar, or Qatar as people say, the USAID Air Base, in Kuwait, Afghan Camp, Ahmed El-Jabbar Air Base, Makbarak Air Base, United Arab Emirates, the El Dhafar, I've actually been there, El Dhafar Air Base, the Jebel Ali Base, the Fujir Air Base in Saudi Arabia, the Prince Sultan Air Base in Riyadh, Trebuk Base, the Western Base in Jeddah in Jordan, the Mufwang Salti Air Base in Iran, in Iraq, the U.S. Air Base at Erbil. I'm just reading this to you. That's a very good source, by the way. So it's on. What?
I don't disagree with that. I heard that this morning. I don't know if it's that many, but I would be surprised. Who's going to be our allies in this, if any?
Well,
I think it's going to be a two-trick pony.
It's the U.S. and Israel.
That's right.
And it's interesting to see the Europeans not go along with all the talk, and certainly the Chinese aren't in on it, and the Russians aren't in on it. So it is us and fill in the blank, the Israelis.
Well, I always thought you were against these sort of things. What are your thoughts on this?
Oh, listen, I frankly don't know, because you're wanting to see, well, what are they going to do? Are they going to, do what was done in Venezuela and apparently not. This is multiple strikes, and this is a country that shoots back. And one of my fears when you see something like this is spread. How can this spread? What will the Chinese do? What will the Russians do? What will other countries in the Middle East do? This is a.
Well,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Russia came out today. You know, they're very down on the war.
Yep.
All of the Middle East is going to be down on the war. Great Britain announced that they're going to put planes up to protect them.
Yep.
Not to attack Iran. And I just think America's going to rise up. You're going to have everybody on the left, all the non-Trumpers, which is me. All of them are going to be against this, and you're going to have a sizable piece of MAGA that is against this, and it's going to be a broad coalition.
The first 72 hours will tell the tale.
You're exactly right.
Thank you for everything, man. I got to jump. We're coming back. 710 KNUS. Lines are wide open, and now the Iranians are retaliating. 303-696-1971. The Iran retaliation against the U.S. and Israeli strikes. Donald Trump is calling for regime change. The U.S. and Israel announced the major military operation against Iran early this morning, and Donald Trump threatened the Iranian regime and for weeks to make a new deal to rein in the nuclear program. Before that, threatened it over violence, the crackdown on their own protesters. The video that was on Truth Social, the U.S. undertaking this massive and ongoing operation to prevent this very wicked, radical dictatorship from threatening the United States and our core national security interests. And now the strike back has begun. Thank you to my great friend for doing all of this, where he's showing me or sending notes to me about what's taking place at the UAE, in Qatar and Kuwait, Jordan, Saudi Arabia. They're firing back. 303-696-1971. Get your thoughts. Saturday morning, everyone, February 28th, 2026. It's going to be 70 for a high, 65 on Sunday, and Monday, 67 degrees. 303-696-1971. What do you do with this? We're now in a war, and it is your turn. 303-696-1971. To talk to you about our friends at Water Pros. And this is really cool. Water Pros cares about the quality of your water. You can remove forever chemicals and microplastics and hard water, and Water Pros special put my name on it, Peter Boyles special. That's pretty cool. But it's really good. Start the process. Go to waterpros.net and sign up for a free in-home consultation. Then they come to your home and they test your water and answer all of your questions, all your concerns about your water. Trust these guys. They've taken care of all of my water, and they will for you as well. Water Pros. They're family-owned and veteran-operated, and they're dedicated to providing you with the best in water treatment for less than the other guys. What you do is just make the phone call, 303-862-5554, 303-862-5554, and ask for the Peter Boyles special. They come to the house, and they test, and they're looking to do whole water softeners and point-of-use reverse osmosis, drinking water. Do it all right. Start the process. Go to waterpros.net and sign up for your free in-home consultation. They come to your home, test your water. You can watch it, and you can see what they do. 303-862-5554. All right, it is your turn. There is nobody on the lines. We've been jammed up all morning. 303-696-1971. How does this end? What does the end look like? One of the important things that historians teach us is that a successful war must have a war aim, a definable aim, not a George Bush aim or a Richard Nixon aim, but an FDR aim or an Abraham Lincoln aim, or what General Washington thought it was. What was their aim for the breakaway war, the revolution, to get away from the British Empire? The same thing is true. What was the war? And you can see wars that have successful aims are successful wars because they're definable and not the nonsense that we watched with Bush and Cheney. All right, I got to read a bunch of them to you, but here they go. Hey, Peter, it's pretty scary. I'm afraid of where our country is headed. On top of everything, depending on what he is cutting off across a nation, we could be facing a civil war. I'm pretty anxious. On the side note, yeah, I saw that Neil Sedaka had passed away. And that was Sedaka, there's music from our childhoods, our young adulthoods that was done by Neil Sedaka. Sedaka passed. The loss of a wonderful man and a great entertainer. Peter Boyles voted for Trump 3 times, but he is reckless. He's got limited morals and values. He's willing to take risks that recent presidents could or would not indulge in. Let me see. The death of Ayatollah Khomeini has been eliminated. He was the senior of the Ayatollahs, and he was the original strike, and apparently that was successful. Love how liberals whine and cry. Makes my day. They're like so perfect. Okay. The U.S. now announcing the military operation against. I'm reading all this at one time, but the Iranians are now striking back. Was to be expected. How do you expect this to go? That's really the question, isn't it? How do you expect it to go? What do you expect these different countries to do? We now have dubbed that, this is our country's assault called Operation Epic Fury. And Donald Trump is now calling on the Iranians to lay down their weapons and on Iran's civilians to rise up and take over your government. Possible. This is a text message that says Epstein who? ? There's a lot of people sending those kinds of messages in saying that this is simply a cover-up that's wagging the dog because of Jeffrey Epstein. All right, Dan Caplis's law firm. Danny's my guy, and if you want your case to be taken seriously, you want to choose a law firm that really is taken seriously. Dan Caplis Law is absolutely taken seriously. The Dan Caplis firm is a real trial firm, and proves and does and provides the truth when insurance carriers do not pay up all they should be paying out of court settlements, and Danny, of course, is the man. The only attorney in Colorado history to win 11 straight 7-figure jury verdicts, including a record $205 million jury verdict in a wrongful death case and the largest truck crash jury verdict in Colorado history. Dan Caplis' firm is a serious firm, serious cases, accept righteous injury and death cases on percentage fee basis. He's there for you. There is no upfront fees, no change in the initial, and no charges in the beginnings of all of this in the initial consultations. See the man. Danny now has offices in Denver, Greeley, Loveland, and Fort Collins. If you want your case to be taken serious, you call Dan 303-770-5551. Again, 303-770-5551. Or hit dancaplisLaw.com. Danny spells his last name Caplis Law.com. 303-770-5551. All right, your turn. 303-696-1971. How do you expect this to end? What do you expect to see happen? These are easily gotten into and difficult to get out of. The death toll will begin. You'll start to see that rung up. Relations between Iran and the United States in modern times have been very unsettling, and the Iran-U.S. relationships have a very troubled history, and more than once, right? And now we've come to this. And this is not, from what I'm being told by my friends and also what I'm watching on TV, what's available, this is a full-scale strike. This is not, and the Iranians, the Iran's paramilitary Revolutionary Guard, announced it's responding by launching a first wave of drones and missiles targeting Israel, where a nationwide warning has been issued as the military said it will bring down Iranian fire. Read a couple more to you. It's really lighting up here, but see, no explanation from Trump about why or what's the next. Actually, there is another diversion as the Epstein noise gets louder. We're getting a lot of this about Epstein. The next 9 months are going to be the scariest bat crap crazy for the country since the late 60s and Watergate. 303-696-1971. Hang on. 710 KNUS. We're back with Professor Smith.